I wanted to just ask you about something because for some reason, I haven't come across until preparing for this podcast. Something that I now just read and found interesting in your work is the cycle adjustment technique.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so do you want to give a quick rundown of that?
Yeah, it's a pretty simple technique, really. I think it sounds a lot more complicated than the reality of the practice. The idea really is just that the majority of techniques focus around psychological preparation, such as all-day awareness, these sorts of things. And I'm a big believer that a lot of lucid dreaming is has a biological or neurological basis. So we're kind of just pushing our bodies out of synchronization with what they should be doing, and that creates sort of a burst of awareness where it wouldn't have been otherwise.
Hmm.
Um, so the cycle adjustment technique is really a means to achieve that. So the basic principle is you would, for say a week, wake up 90 minutes earlier than you usually would, just to sort of adjust your sleep cycle so that that becomes your standard pattern.
Hmm.
And then following that week, you alternate between the earlier waking and waking at your later time. The point is there that during the time on the days where you sleep in later, your mind is going to be more alert. It's kind of I mean, it's very similar to Wake Back to Bed, really, just with
Yeah,
the addition of this cycle shift. The the ti- the
yeah, that's very interesting.
the time scales and the timing used in my book and on the internet is really just a suggestion. It's not set in stone. I Most of the things I suggest, I just want people to start experimenting with. So I don't think there's any clear cut answers as to what the right way to do these things are. And hopefully, if more and more people try an experiment and we get feedback on what people find as effective,
Yeah.
then we can slowly sort of hone in on what's the correct approach. But I think it's useful to, especially with, say, the advent of the chemicals such as galantamine, which prove to us that lucid dreaming has this biological basis.
Hmm.
I mean, if you can take a pill, change your brain chemistry, and that makes lucidity all the more easier, then that's a big
Yeah,
implication.
yeah. For me, that was always somewhat obvious, even before galantamine, in terms of, again, my fascination with brain led me to the conclusion, and I know we can't sort of just reduce brain states and brain chemistry to subjective states of consciousness, but there's always correlation. It's all at the bottom a matter of brain functions. And I think that even when we're just tricking ourselves or using prospective memory or wake back to bed, is we're making adjustments to how the brain works in order to trigger lucidity in a sense.
Yeah,
And I think and I do and that's actually the reason why I believe that technology will eventually sort of make techniques obsolete, and that's controversial or not. That's my belief at the moment.
yeah,
And I think that it sounds like the cycle adjustment technique is an interesting approach because I've heard people have success with things like dream rebound.
yeah,
And again, the more disruptive it is for sleep, the less sustainable technique is.
yeah,
Um, this one sounds very interesting. Like it doesn't you don't have to wake up in the middle of the night or things like that. But I do also believe, and this is one of the fascinating things about techniques and supplements and all those things, that it, as far as I can tell from all these years of sort of reading and talking to people, nothing works 100% for everyone or in a larger degree for everyone.
yeah,
Even things that are as relatively reliable for a lot of people like galantamine don't work for some people at all,
yeah.
myself included, by the way.
Oh,
But
really?
I know that they work for many, many other people. Yes. Why, I don't know. Probably the explanation is brain chemistry. Whatever my brain chemistry setup is, just either doesn't work with it, or maybe it needs different quantity, or maybe something else is getting involved that it's just throwing it off for some reason.
Yeah,
Who knows? It'll be interesting to figure this out one day somehow. But
Yeah, I completely agree with all of those points. I think that there's a tendency, especially in forums and well throughout the entire field of these things, to obsess on technique.
yeah.
It's kind of it's almost a bit of a disease of the lucidity enthusiast. I mean, the amount of new techniques ending in "ild." We've worked through the alphabet so many times already.
Yeah, I
It,
make fun of that all the time. So thanks for adding a cat in there. So that's kind of
yeah,
nice.
I wanted to go a different angle with that one. Um,
Good move.
but yeah, I really think that. I mean, I've been rereading Saint Denis
Hmm.
and his dreams and the means to direct them, and it's fascinating seeing this early pioneer of lucid dreaming and how he approached the subject. And I mean, essentially, his the basis for his entire practice was simply to record and observe. And within a very short period of time, his dream recall was pretty much perfect. I think it was 179 days of recording his dreams until he had perfect recall,
Nice.
and then 202 days of this practice, he had his first lucid dream. And 15 months later, following this just continuous recall and observation, just developing a relationship with his dreams, he then had perfect lucidity. Um, and I mean, that's what we all look for, really. I mean,
Yeah, I've been trying to scream this from the rooftops and telling everybody two aspects about dream recall and dream journaling
yeah,
in the service of dream recall is that if you can only do if you're getting into lucid dreaming and you're overwhelmed by all the techniques and things and that if you do only one thing, write down your dreams, improve your dream recall.
yeah,
And that even if you want to do techniques, you should do that to create a basis for the techniques to actually work.
yeah,
And the second thing is my theory, and it sounds like more people are validating this, is that if you just write down your dreams and increase dream recall to a certain degree, at some point you'll just naturally cross over to lucidity because all lucidity is, and as far as I'm concerned, or as far as I can tell, is just dream awareness. And the more awareness you have, it just at some point, it's not like a hard line, but at some point you sort of cross into the spectrum of metacognition and conscious awareness in dreams, and you become lucid naturally just by having increased awareness, which is why I think also mindfulness meditation helps and works. But I know at least a few people that all they did was increase dream recall by writing down their dreams, and they started spontaneously lucid dreaming more and more frequently.
yeah. I think I would add to that that just writing down the dreams wouldn't be quite enough. It's
Reflection?
the familiarity. Yeah.
Yeah, yes, absolutely.
So because what you're doing is you're building a relationship with your dreaming mind. You're just understanding how that world works and the differences, how
Yeah, I mean, I think it's hard to write down your dreams without doing that, but consciously doing that to a larger degree can probably help. Um,
yeah,
and of course, from that springs so many other things of starting to notice patterns in your dreams and all the little nuances that come from actually writing and reading and thinking about the content of your dreams. That's very cool.
I think the problem most people have with this is it's hard work.
Yep.
and and probably quite well, not probably, we both know it's quite a boring task to wake up in the middle of the night and jot down what you've just been dreaming, and it goes against everything you want to do because you're
Yeah.
all you want to do is just pull the covers over your head and go back to sleep. But
Have you looked into or experimented with writing versus recording your dreams? Audio versus.
I I do both. I tend to record just because it's so much easier to have a voice
Yeah.
recorder by the side of the bed. And then what I'll do is I'll go over those in the morning and write them down. I think there's something to be said for both approaches. I don't know whether I'd say I'd have a preference for one or the other, which is why I combine them. But it's nice to be able to sit back and read through your dream journals years later and just remind yourself of something
Yeah,
that
for
happened to you.
sure, for sure. And again, I'm a big fan of the searchability of writing down digitally. Although I know that people are saying, even for students learning in school or something, to write down notes helps with memory. So I've always wondered if there's a if that is not a myth and that is actually true, but also if that affects dream recall and dream awareness when you're writing down your dreams with a pen and paper. But I don't know.
Yeah, it's an interesting point, isn't it? Because I mean, I can't give anything more than anecdotal uh, experience on this, but my ability to write the the written word versus the typed word, um, the quality and the style of my writing are two very different things depending on which I choose. Uh, Personally, I prefer what I write when it's typed, but it's interesting that there is a difference, and I wonder why that is. I mean, it would be fascinating to know more about that. And
Yeah.